Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. Today I'm joined by Sandy Moll, and she has extensive business experience. She has done acquisitions. She's helped lead financial institutions through regulatory actions. She has done, goodness, I'm looking at her list here. Y'all, this is a very, very accomplished businesswoman that we've got here on the show. I am so excited to have Sandy here. She coaches, she leads, she has led a company that provides quality housing. She leads nonprofits. This woman is an absolute powerhouse. She's especially good at networking and in all areas of financial institutions and business. And she loves coaching and training. Sandy, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here to talk about some clarity in business.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I'm excited to be here. I'm a listener of the Amanda Kaufman Show.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're so excited that you reached out to come here because your resume is really extensive, and you've been doing it for a long time.
Yes.
And I'm just so curious, like you mentioned you're kind of in this season where you're stepping back into speaking and you're stepping back into, more presence. What are you the most excited about focusing on next?
I think it's truly in the world of a lot of noise, and not just the United States, but our world is very noisy, and we hear that all the time, how noisy it is. But I think it's really helping people get clear on what their purpose is, what they were put on earth for, and helping them know that silence can help them get there. I think that's what I'm most excited about, is just serving others to get to a calm place.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And so, dear listener, Sandy and I were coordinating this show, and it was actually kind of fun because usually when I have a guest on the show, they have all the different lead magnets and all the different social presence. And it was so unique actually speaking to you, Sandy. And I know we just finished this conversation, but you really have some great perspectives about the role of social media and how people connect with you. I'm so curious. You obviously are extremely successful without leaning on the noise of social media. What is the secret to that success? How did you get more doors opened and, full client lists and all of that, even without social media?
Well, and that's a great question, because one of my husband and I's companies, we actually own 5 companies, and one of our companies that I spend the most time with is Advanced Business Solutions, better known as ABS. And we do no marketing. We have grown by leaps and bounds over 18 years, strictly by referral. And my philosophy has always been, if you care about people and you're really here to serve and help people, the rest comes pretty naturally. They will send people to you because they know you care. Today is Thursday, and we got 6 referrals this week from people that we have helped in some form or fashion. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, hey, you need to meet this person, and it's just a connecting. But I think using social media, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I think there's a benefit for social media, but for me personally, when I thought, all right, at my age, a mom of 4, a grandmother of 7, trying to slow down a little bit and really spend quality time in the 4th season of my life, serving people, I needed a little more quiet and silence. And so, I have people reach out all the time that say, hey, can I connect with you on LinkedIn or Facebook? And I have talked to 100% of the people that I'm connected to and gotten to know them, because I believe I don't want a false connection. I want a genuine connection with someone that I can help and serve. And I think when you really slow down in life and think, okay, what am I here for? And quit worrying so much about being popular or worried about the money or where's this going to come. There is a plan. No matter what you believe, there is a master plan for your life, and you were put here for a purpose. And if you slow down and just say, all right, I need to get rid of the noise for a while, I believe that really helps. And other people will be attracted to you because people see that peace in you. It's something so simple. I don't know why it's so hard.
I really appreciate that perspective. Dear listener, listen to her resume here. 18 years in business, and it is 100% referral based. And there are a lot of ways to be really successful with business. It is uncommon for somebody to have a business that lasts that long, but that secret sauce of do a great job, do well by people, connect authentically. Those are business tenets that are just universal, and that's been the way of business for well into centuries, because business is really about people. And Sandy, when I was starting my business, I was so scared to even be seen. I was definitely a hardcore introvert. My career had taken me down a path where I was traveling to client site, literally working in basements. So, a level of social isolation when I was starting this business. So for me, the role of marketing was really, really important, but I was so scared of it. I was scared of being seen. I was scared of the pictures, people seeing what I look like. I was scared of like the judgment of strangers. And the thing that really unlocked the business for me was letting go of all of that, like you said, and just being. And then later on, as I became more confident and I built an authentic network and I sold some real coaching and people said, wow, this changed my life. And I was hearing that reinforcement, it bolstered this confidence that I was like, you know what, I am going to brave being seen on social media. I'm going to brave learning how to speak and being on video. And I built the skill over years to be able to use that as a tool. But I just love the call out that it's not necessary. Like, you don't have to do that. But what you absolutely must do is be clear and connect. So what would you tell someone who is maybe kind of like how I started, like they've been a little isolated. I'm not personally religious, so I don't have like a church community that I belong to, and I just sort of felt like I was really isolated. And I think a lot of people are feeling that these days, like they're not necessarily as organically part of communities as they used to be.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
tell someone who maybe finds themselves wanting to have a service-based business, providing service to human beings and people? Like, what's their first move?
And this is going to be a little counterintuitive for people that are in that space, because I think the first thing you actually have to do is spend some alone time in quietness and really contemplate, whether meditate or not, on what is in my heart to do how do I want to change the world? And that is very hard to get clear on with a lot of noise. And yes, a lot of people say, well, you need to seek wisdom and you need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm okay with asking for advice and other people, but I think the ultimate final say has to be, it has to balance your heart with your head. And sometimes if you listen to your heart, your head starts saying those negative beliefs start popping up. Your heart may say, I want to do a coaching business, or I want to do a podcast, and your head's going, but I've never done that. I'm not old enough, or I'm too old, or I don't look pretty enough, or all these things. But if it's in your heart, then your heart needs to change your head. And there's ways of doing that. But it is counterintuitive that if you're an introvert and you want to get out there, the first thing I think you need to do is actually spend some alone time in silence and really, really get clear on what it is that you believe you were here for. None of my husband and I, all 5 businesses we own, we do no marketing. I think one of the businesses has a Facebook page. And then ABS does have a website. But the only reason we actually even have a website is somebody said, you probably should, just to validate you guys are real. And that's why we're going through changing our website now, is because we haven't touched it in so long and it's not that good. But I think the reality is, if your focus really is on, I know for a fact I was put on earth to make other people's lives better. I know that. And how that happens depends on the person. So if every day I get up and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do today to serve others? And I just listen, my day always goes great. But it is very counterintuitive to be quiet and be in silence when you're trying to get your name out there. You have to give it up.
Yes, I love this. And what a great practice as well, just like starting the day with this surrender and also intention. Like it's both, of this intention to serve and this intention of how you want to be, but also like letting that happen.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing things that we can do with marketing that can pull people much closer to you, and they work. That's why so many people do it. However, I think we've all had that experience where the marketing rang hollow. Like
Yeah.
it looked really good, but it was a little like, I hate to pick on a store-bought cake, but there's something different about doing something that's like homemade from scratch versus the
Yeah.
store-bought cake, right? It
Yeah.
might look really cool on the outside, but it's usually dry, it's usually been in the fridge forever, or maybe even frozen before, and it's just not quite the same. So it seems like you're really tapping into, like, for all of these five businesses, there's a heart, there's a core to that business that really, like, you're saying you don't have any marketing, but I'm like, well, she does. It's just all referral strategy, right? And
That's
but it's
yes.
compelling people to market for you. Like, you don't have to be as intentional about it because everybody's just like, hey, I had a great experience. You know who you should talk to? Sandy, right? Like,
You
so
know what?
how do you approach business that it makes people want to do that for you?
Well, that's a great question because as human beings, with all the noise around us, we're not intuitive about sharing great things to others. We're very intuitive about complaining, and we're great, but it isn't normal for us to brag on things that happen to us about another company. And so I do ask. We all ask. Everybody in our company, we ask. We ask, Mr. Client, what makes us special to you? And that brings that thought from here to here for them. And Mr. Client, are there other businesses or individuals that you feel like we could serve? We ask. So that is our marketing, is asking very pointed and intentional. I love that you use that word, very intentional questions, and asking them. We don't say, hey, could you refer 5 people to us? We just constantly are making sure they see that we're valuable, and they're going to be more valuable to their sphere of influence if they share our name with them. I had somebody tell me it's subliminal marketing. Probably could be called that. I had a
I
client.
would call it good marketing. Like, I would say that it's just done well.
Well, and rightfully so. For full disclosure, we have a marketing budget, but our marketing budget is sending thank you gifts and flowers and checks to people that have referred people to us. I had a client that I was talking to this morning, and she called specifically. She said, "All right, I'm going to talk to somebody this afternoon, and I know you have this great way you describe health," because her and I have talked a lot about our health because we're both a little bit older. And I said, okay, I always think of health as the H is for happiness. You have to choose every day to be happy. And E is for energy. You have to give energy to get energy. So the days that I'm really tired and I don't feel like walking or running or exercising, it's like, I'm not going to get energy if I don't give it. And A is for awareness, that you have to be aware of the things that suck your energy. And then the L is for love. You have to live every day in love for everything around you and be grateful for it. And T is for tranquility. Set time for silence and alone time for yourself. You're worth it. And you are very much need that time to recharge your mind and your body. And then H is for harmony, because I believe the HEALT all gives you harmony in life. And I think when you live and others see that, and that's what Gita told me. She says, I see that always in you. So I'm always telling people about this word you have. If you live that way, others will see it and others will want it.
You know what I think I really appreciate about you, Sandy, is, so first of all, I just have to tell you, like, in my mental Rolodex, you are business relationship ninja. Like, that I've assigned you as business relationship ninja. So I want you to know that. But I think the other thing that I really appreciate about you, and you taking the time to apply to and, like, be here on this podcast, is so many people are still in that phase of their business where they're promoting of what they're gonna do. They're fixing to, they're gearing up, right? And everybody's always in growth. So, like, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
throwing shade. I'm simply appreciating here, building five businesses, having any business that is lasting over 10 years, 18 years in advisory capacity. Like, that is really, really significant. So I'm so curious, now that you've actually done so much and had that much impact on people. I love the health acronym. What would you tell someone who's maybe in the first 3 years? Like, what do they not know about business and the nature of business and life that is maybe causing them more stress than they need to have, that now you know, because you've done it for 18, you know, you're looking back, like, what do they need to know about their next 15 years?
Yeah, and one of our businesses that is actually over 25 years old. So we've been around a lot in different industries that all kind of intertwine. I think the thing that, and I'll tell you a little story that maybe will answer that question if I have 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So
course, please.
When I started ABS, it kind of fell in my lap. People were calling wanting help. And my husband and I had other businesses, and I thought, I'm just going to take some time with my youngest son was still home at the time. But as people were calling, it's like, how can you say no to helping people? It's hard to say no when you know they need help. And so this was a different type of company than we had ever started. We'd started a lot of other companies. This was a little bit different, or in my mind, it was different. Probably not, because it's a service business. Not all of our businesses are service, but so I did what I now tell people don't do. I asked everybody that I thought was successful, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to follow the successful people. And I was miserable. And so for 3 years, I was miserable. And then finally I went, why am I doing this? I'm doing everything their way, but their business is not my business. And so I had a business plan burning party. And I said, I am now going to do what I believe is right in my heart. And I'm going to follow my heart, even though my head's telling me it's not going to work. And I really pushed through year 4, and we have grown by 10% or more every year since then. I think the first thing people have to do is, it's okay to get advice, but first you have to get clear on what your purpose is. And some people think, well, I'm just going to start a business to make money. I'm not saying making money is wrong, but there usually needs to be successful, there needs to be a bigger purpose. I mean, Amanda, you want to serve people. You want to help people have a more peaceful and successful life. Do you need to make money? Yes, money is just a green thank you note. We all need it. But a lot of people start a business with the intent they want the money first. I think that's wrong. I think first you have to be really intentional on listening to what the world needs and what people need. And if you focus on what the world need and what people need, the money does follow. It truly does. But if you focus first on the money, so-and-so started this business and they're making tons of money, so I'm going to do it. But you may hate what they're doing. I think you first have to listen and say, all right, what does the world need? You know, what can I do to serve the world? And with ABS, we started primarily with banks and credit unions. Now we serve small and medium businesses, but we knew at the time we started that there was a turmoil in that industry. And we knew part of the problem was they needed help in different areas. We could give that help to them. We could serve them so that their days, they could go home at night and enjoy their family and not wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning stressed. We could help those people in those industries. So I think the first thing I always say is, don't chase the money. It's okay to chase the dream and the passion. The money follows.
I love that. You know, I've been in business myself for just over 8 years now. And, you know, we all, I think, go into business for lots of different reasons. And as you're talking about this, one of the things that popped into my mind was the tendency that I've noticed of especially newer business owners. They either are money hungry, right? Like they're starved for money. They're in a financial distressful situation. And like, that's no joke. So I'm like a big proponent of like, get a job. It's the fastest way to make money. Get a job, right? Get a better job. Like if you're trying to quit your job, you know, because your boss sucks, it's like, you know, you're going to have hard clients. You're going to have hard times. You're going to have these things. Like you need to have those skills. So maybe the skill of quitting the bad job to get a better job is a better next step than trying to put all your financial success and pressure on the business. So it's either like money hungry, or the other side that I see is money repellent, right? Where people kind of get into their head that there's this virtue of not being paid and this virtue of suffering and martyrdom that also makes no sense. So I have a suspicion you may be pointing me back to get quiet and have clarity. When it
Yes.
comes to the money mindset, in my experience anyway, I've noticed it's like there really is kind of this sweet spot of having boundaries around not over giving beyond your capacity, but at the
Yep.
same time, like letting things play out and allowing for the flow of money. So like I'm so curious what your take is on that. And did you observe that same thing where people either push it away or they run towards it, but it's really the secrets in the middle?
Yeah, and I love exactly your story there, because I'm currently coaching a mother and daughter, and they wanted to start their own business because the daughter hated her job. The mother was in an okay job, but she's just like, I'm ready for something more. And the daughter said, I need to quit my job. I said, no, you need to stay in your job and you need to excel in your job and be thankful for your job while we help you start this business. And we're going to set some milestones when you hit the business part at this mark, then you can quit your job. But I think you're 100% right. A lot of times they run from a job to start a business. And I'll be honest, I'll share something very personal. Our oldest son hated his job. So he quit his job with 4 children and a wife to start his own company. And he was not prepared. He did not have the capital he needed for the type of business he wanted to start. And it was a hard 3 years till finally he listened to us and got out of the company and went back to a job. And I said, get clear on what you want first. And then, yes, then you have to sometimes say, all right, what's it going to take to get that started? And while you're at your job, you need to be preparing to get that started. There's a lot of marketing out there that says, well, you can start this with no money down. You still have to pay your bills. You can start it with no money down, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be making enough to make your mortgage payment or your rent. I think the mindset of the repelling of the money, it comes back to, I see a lot in not just the United States, but worldwide, the belief that we're not worthy of being successful or happy or healthy or whatever it may be. And that is so prevalent in all generations. My generation, I'm a baby boomer, all down to my kids' generations. And I think that's so wrong, because we were put here for a purpose, and we are worthy. By being here, we're worthy of having anything that we can attract. But it's a very hard mindset to switch. I mean, that is, I think, one of the biggest beliefs. And you probably even experienced that, where you're like, I'm not worthy of getting a client that's going to pay me $50,000 a year or whatever. Well, yeah, you are. You just have to find the right client. But
this was like a crazy thing, actually, because for me, right at the very beginning, I was making over $250,000 a year in a job. But then the first time I went to set up the economics for my coaching business, my first sale was $10 an hour to my best friend. And I was like, first of all, proud of myself for making my first sale. So grateful to have a friend that, she comes from wealth and money. So for her, it was very much just a mindset exercise of me of just like claiming some kind of value and just like doing it. And I'm so glad that she did it. But it was also a huge signal. I'm like, wait a second, this math ain't mathin', right? If a company was willing to pay me $250,000, like I actually have evidence that I have like this value that I can offer people, like a lot of evidence of that. And then like also I happened to be in that one company and that was the spreadsheet, like who's to say that was even the correct number? But I do have this evidence of this starting point. And that was like the big mindset shift. And I also knew how much my company was charging out for my time. Yes. It was definitely a lot more than I was doing. And I was just like, wait a second. And I'm grateful I had that job experience, peeps, to be able to connect those dots forward into my entrepreneurial journey. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah. It is, I think, unfortunately, not everybody has the $250,000 job. They may have a $40,000 a year job. And so it's harder for them to get that flip that switch. But everybody
come to, right?
Yes. Yeah. But everybody has some measure to prove that they are worthy. And it may be volunteer work they do that people so appreciate. They may be working on Saturday mornings, handing out food baskets. So sometimes you have to equate the worth that's not a monetary to kind of get that flip, that switch. But I think making sure that you understand that money is just a green thank you note. And the reality is when you're dead, you're not taking it with you. Yeah, my husband and I have a goal of living on 10% of what we earn and giving away 90%. And we do that very intentionally, even to the point of sometimes we didn't last year, and I don't know why, something came up, but we allocate a certain amount and we have our kids. We say, each of you families need to pick how you're going to give away this money. And I remember one of my kids said, when you started doing that, I thought, oh my gosh, I now am responsible for giving away money, and it's more money than I earned this year. And I think for him, that was how he flipped that switch, that you guys think I'm worthy enough to serve others with this money. And so I think there's a lot of different ways that we can not only flip that switch ourselves, but help others flip that switch by pointing things out. You know, you may think, okay, I hope you're making $16 million a year, Amanda, because you're worth it. And it may be just as simple as people saying, you know, you helped me get through this situation in my family, and I don't know what I would have done. I would have lost my family, or I would have spent hundreds and thousands of dollars with a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Nothing wrong with that. I think those people earn their money, but there's always instances where you can find your worth. And sometimes people have to help you uncover that.
Yeah, and believe in your capacity too. You know, like I think sometimes, I know I've fallen into this trap dozens of times, and I see it all the time as well, of just like, you assess your capability or future capacity based on your current. And the thing is that there's so many things you can learn. There's so many relationships you could tap into. There's so many things down that winding path, if you just let yourself walk it, that you actually have no idea of what your real capacity and potential is.
Right.
So
and you know, I think it was I think it was when I hit 60 and I really was focusing on spending that time just in reflection and quiet. And you'd think by 60 I would have it all figured out. Been successful, made a lot of money, helped a lot of people. But it really started clicking with me that I don't need to be at this networking event to be successful or to have them validate my worth. I may go because I enjoy it and I may want to serve others, but I don't go for a validation. And I think sometimes the noise in the world hinders us from accepting that we have worth.
Sandy, I wish we could just keep going for days and days. This is just such a wonderful conversation, but I'm sure you have things that you must go do. So what is the best way for people to follow you?
They can go to our website, which is www.abs, and then the hyphen sign, core.com. So abs-core.com. And I think there's a connect button or an info button, and it eventually will get to me.
That. Sandy, thank you so much for your time and your energy and your wisdom on this show.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I could probably talk to you for days. You yourself have so much wisdom that I don't know how you're as young as you are to have all that wisdom, but you've been blessed. So thank you.
I received that, and I really appreciate you. And dear listener, if you love this, if you want more wisdom on a future episode, do make sure that you smash that subscribe button. And you can grab the link to this episode and send it to 3 of your friends. 3 friends that maybe need a little more self-belief, a little more of that oomph and that injection into their journey because you believe in them. Just grab the link and text it to them, send it through a DM, however you love to talk to your friends. And finally, if you have not yet left us a review, take 30 seconds to do so. Just an honest review. Those positive reviews give such a lift to the podcast. It's the best way to say thank you if you really did enjoy this. And we really do appreciate you listening and tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. And until then, make sure you do what